This is Face to Face with the co-founders of the National Association of Expert Advisors, Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
We believe that we can change the real estate industry. There is a better way to sell real estate.
Your success is ultimately a sum of the decisions that you make.
And they're really developing a process, a set of guidelines, a set of procedures.
They're also best-selling authors.
Here today to discuss the issue is Jay Kinder and Michael Reese. You gotta love some AC/DC.
Yeah, if I could sing it, I would.
Well, I can do that part.
Okay.
I can play the air guitar. I can play the air mop or the air broom like nobody's business.
Yeah, I'll go for the air broom.
All right. Michael's on the air broom. I'm on the air vacuum cleaner. We actually had the cops show up at our house one time. Me and Casey, my cousin, and we lived over off of 45th Street by Cameron. And we had the door open, so the cop was like looking through, and we were standing on chairs singing to, like, and playing air guitar to AC/DC, and the cop was at the door knocking. You know what I'm saying? And everybody that was our audience of 4 or 5 people, probably, I don't remember, we were probably drinking. I'm pretty sure. Were like they all were like had the look of fear because we had the stereo turned up too loud.
Right.
And it was the cop. He finally let himself in. Casey turned around and was like, "Come on in." Anyway, good old days. Well, face to face, we're here again today, as promised, delivering another exciting episode. Today we're going to talk about some of the foundational elements of what you have to be able to do to be successful, to differentiate, to win the consumer, and ultimately win the game. And how do you want to kick it off, Michael? What are you thinking?
Man,
what are you thinking?
over
there. What do you think? I always wonder, what are you thinking over there?
What I'm thinking over here is, I was thinking about how this could go a lot of different ways.
Right.
Because the consumer experience, to be completely transparent, I was thinking about the YouTube video you shot years, maybe 2009, where we were at that conference. I always called
the
it
flying of the turkeys, or
flocking of the dolphins, something like that. What was it? The floundering fish. The floundering fish.
The gathering of the 8-track tapes.
Yeah, that's what it was. But I remember being there and being like, I remember looking over and video being new on the iPhone. It wasn't even the iPhone. I don't even know what you shot that on. It might have been a Flip, actually.
Palm Pilot.
Yeah, it might have been a Palm Pilot.
Palm Trio.
Yeah. But it was, you were talking about the consumer experience. If you haven't seen the video, you should check it out on our YouTube channel. But it's phenomenal. And it was so spot on. And the you know what the problem is that I was having a struggle with something that I wanted to talk about that really happened, that I was trying to understand if that was in alignment with the topic. That's what I was thinking when you said, "What are you thinking?" And it was because, when does the consumer experience start and end is where I was in my head. Because that was really the scope in which our discussion, right? If you're going to have the consumer experience, like, what does that even mean?
Right.
And to me, there was, if you're going to give somebody a certain consumer experience, I'm just going to have to say what's on my mind. I'm
fascinated.
I'm
definitely interested in what you have
3
to
different
say.
situations. Had a conversation with a real estate agent that charges X amount of fee. And I don't want to get into what those fees they charge, but
can you tell us if they're high or low?
Probably the highest I've ever heard.
Gotcha.
And so this was today. I'm going through their exact financial model. I think that they do a very phenomenal job in consumer experience. And I'm trying to say in their model, I said, well, we have our CFO on the phone, and we're like, well, when we're going through and modeling out the business, let's take your average. That's not the average. And I'm drilling back on them. And they said, well, let's just pull up July. And they pulled up July, which I thought it was like, okay, every once in a while, this is your fee.
Right.
And
so
like,
for clarity purposes, for people that are listening, we've done this a million times. specifically, when you say what do you charge in commission, they say, well, I charge 3%. I get 3% on the list side, for instance. Let's say, yeah, but that's not what you average, right?
That's exactly where I was going.
You sell a builder and it's code 2, or you take a listing from an investor and you do a deal with them, or you put your house through. There's all these things that happen, or you co-broke. You end up co-broking something less on some, all those situations, right? So when you're saying, what is it? What was the commission?
Yeah,
you were trying to forecast, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I was trying to say, well, what is your average commission we can put in the model? And I was like, there's no way that is. They said, well, and I said, I actually stopped and said, give me a second. Hey, let's pull up and let's get their act. I do out of task because I didn't think.
Right.
They said, but they didn't. They just wanted to make a point like, no, that's really what it is. And so they said, well, and then I said, well, that's because those are the ones you go on. And they said, well, let's pull up July. I didn't have any closings, so none of them for me. These were all from our partners, and they said the fee, and it was across the board higher than I charged. And they went over their structure, their packages, and we got into an interesting discussion because I'm looking at their model, because there's one thing to do with the consumer experience, and that's why I was thinking part of the, we pre-inspect all our homes,
right,
and that there's a reason for that. And there's a specific scenario where someone ran into a situation that would have been prevented if the home would have been pre-inspected.
Right.
The difference in their model is they charge the client for the pre-inspection, and we don't, which I see the economics of that.
Right.
Because we have 30-something coming soon.
Right.
And when you have 30 coming soon, you have a lot of pre-inspections you paid for.
Right.
And they don't, because they're collecting them up front. So I was just, trying to dissect. But from the consumer...
Yeah, that's important.
Right. And
that's important when you go to scale.
Exactly. And that was our discussion point. And I was trying to explain to him why, having a blanket system across the board, I said, in context, if they meet with you or meet with the people that meet with you all the time, it's easy. Yeah, maybe they'll be able to determine maybe this one doesn't need it and this one doesn't. But that's not the reason you do it, A. And I was just talking about the system, and I actually told him, hey, I was just bragging on you to Jay the other day because I feel like y'all are the best in the world at just following the system. I mean, y'all follow it. So anyway, it was an interesting conversation. But what it reminded me of is another person, which was one of the three, which is I had two scenarios. One was today. It's on my text. It was an hour and a half ago, $1 million in closings. And they were asking, in both scenarios, one was on Sunday, this past Sunday. I was at the lake, and I got a call, and it said, I wouldn't bother you on Sunday, but I need help with this deal. Both of them were about their fee. Both of these conversations were about the commission. So I had this conversation with someone who's totally far off, which is their reality is, hey, listen, we're worth it, and this is what we do, and this is what we charge. And then I had these two other people that are just in a different mindset.
Right.
And one of them had both ends of the transaction, and they were a certain...
Right.
Did you hear all this?
Well, no, but I just know that when there's both ends of the deal, you've got, as an agent, I remember being that agent that had the deal on the line, and I'm thinking, that's a lot of money to be... I'm going to make a lot of money on this. I don't want to lose it. So you start acting different.
Period. Exactly. Nailed it. And so...
That's funny.
And so in this person, I was dealing with that issue, which they literally came to the call, called, they texted me and said, never have I ever got a text from this individual. I need your help on this scenario. And I start talking to him. I said, and it was the very first thing that I said is I said, first and foremost, you got to think that this deal's not going to fall apart, right?
Right.
And I started explaining to her just my philosophy, but there was a lot of mindset on...
Why don't you expand on that? Because
okay.
some people, you know what I'm saying, like they deal with this and they don't know if they may not be dealing with it right. Like if you're a team leader and you have a team...
So let me tell you what...
Everybody deals with it.
Let me tell you exactly what happened. This is a negotiation, so it's kind of getting off track, but this is why the first thing is all of our partners are certified negotiation experts. We send our partners... We sent Denny to go get her master's degree. We sent Alex to get their master's. Alex and Denny are like 2 of 600 people in the country that have their master's in negotiation, right? So they're 2 partners. And so the reason why we have our agents be the highest level of certified is because of this consumer experience. And so what happened was, it's kind of different, but someone had told me, hey, one of the best things I've had since partnering with you is y'all built our confidence. This is what a real girl's doing amazing. This other gal who I'm talking to on the phone, she says, she goes back and forth and tries to explain to me the negotiation. And I said, let me just explain to you what's happened here. If I can't understand what's happened and what you just explained, the clients are probably confused, because this is how the negotiation went. We'll offer $400,000 and this. The buyer came back with that. But what they kept on doing was then the seller said, okay, but I'm not paying for title policy. And then it got so confusing of who was going to do what under what circumstance. I said, first of all, you should have only negotiated on the sales price. Would they have paid title policy at the sales price? Because in the scenario where you dropped $8,000, if they would have dropped $6,000, the title policy was $2,000. Why don't you just tell the other person, okay, that sounds great, we'll do it for this price? Because the minute what happened was when the buyer said, okay, I won't, it put the other person at, I took something away that was about, it was part of the negotiation. Now I agreed to this term and took something away. And now it's like, oh, who's going to win? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the individuals started getting a little bit frazzled because they're trying to keep up with it.
Right.
So I said, and they got to 2,000 apart. And she literally said, I don't think the seller is going to budge. They're done. And I said, and the buyer is done. I don't even think they'll talk to me. And so I said, okay, first of all, they will talk to you. And let me tell you something. I put deals together that, and this is what I told her. I wish I might have, I don't think I recorded it. I said, but they will talk to you. But the meaning that you give in this right now is a commission. The meaning you should give this, which what I would give, is this would be a challenge to see, am I one of the best in the world?
Right.
Because one of the best in the world will get this done.
Right.
This is how good you are. You have to give this meeting not about if this is going to get done. It's
Don't worry
about how
about you.
trained are
Right,
you,
right.
how good are you, because your client, your seller hired you to be the best.
Right.
And if you were the best, you wouldn't lose a deal over
2,000,
Gs.
right, no.
So they're looking for you to be their expert advisor, and this scenario has gotten them confused and gotten them to an emotional state where you're now at the point of negotiating from a position of fear of your commission.
Right.
I said, let's just get your mind right. It's going to close. You know why? Because statistically, since I've been in real estate, you will be the first person that I've ever seen or remember or can specifically point to that lost the deal over $2,000.
Right.
So it's going to close. You know why? Why it's going to close? Because somebody in this transaction needs this deal more than you do.
Right.
And if that's not the case, then it's going to close because you're going to ask me next question, can I give him part of my commission? And but you see what I'm saying? Like, we went through the whole deal and we had our team meeting on Tuesday and she just said and I said, listen, I said, I'll do whatever you want. If you want to give him the $2,000 and you really think that I'm not gonna, fight you over it. I mean, I don't want you, because I was trying to it's like in a customer service situation, I'm going to give you whatever you asked for.
Right.
Because I was trying to open the gate of the mind.
Right.
So that she wasn't trying to force, to sell me on why that needed to be the deal. So I opened the gate of the mind. I said, you're going to get whatever you want if you want to do it. But let me tell you why you want to go at this and why this is probably one of the best opportunities or the few you're ever going to really to get to see what you're made of.
Right.
And then she was up for the challenge, and it wasn't emotional. It was like, can I do what my client hired me to do? And can I get this buyer? And I said, the first is your vernacular. I said, the very first thing when you call them, you have to say, I got good news.
Right.
This is going to work. You got to start, because right now, what you don't want the buyer to do is start looking at a future of this not being their home.
Right.
And the minute you say good news, they're thinking, okay, well, maybe this deal's going to work.
Right.
Right now, they're thinking, well, maybe this deal's not going to work. They're already starting to see a world without that house.
Right.
And you got to stop that immediately.
Right.
And the second thing is you got to get movement in the negotiation. So you need to, and so I just walked her through it, and she did exactly, and she said they weren't, basically it came together as a result of, at $2,000, it was just a emotion. It was information.
Right.
And I said, as long as your seller thinks tomorrow's going to be better than today, they might not consider selling. But do they know that it's going to be school August 27th,
What
and then it's
percentage
Labor
of homes,
Day?
Yeah, what percentage of homes sell in September as opposed to August?
Exactly.
And October as opposed to August.
And that's the
November.
training.
And you're right.
And
Right.
I think from a customer experience, I did the same thing. So I was talking to, I was just talking to. This is funny that we're having these conversations about. But I said to the same person actually. So that was Sunday. I had a call with the same person today, and I said to him, I said, you know what's important? I said the main. So I just was talking to her. I said, is there anything I can help you with? And she said, man, it's funny you asked, but I woke up in bed. And I do have some stuff, but I think she felt like she had taken enough of my time. And she said, but I'll ask you anyway. How am I going to sell my big listing? And it's a 7-figure listing. And she's saying everything. And I said, and so I went on to explain to her. And the thing that I communicated to her was communication. If I distilled it down during a transaction, if you are either like what I learned in 2008 was that if I am communicating to them on a frequency, then they're not building up to try to communicate to me, like almost like to this boiling point.
Even more important, if you had set an expectation at the beginning as to what that communication would be, and put it in their court that we're a team, and that if there's anything you need, that you reach out to me, and either way we're going to talk every we used to do it every 30 days, and we would review the market, and we would go through all. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't do that,
right?
And my experience was I had over 200 listings at the time, and when the market started going south in 2007, I had all of them wanting to call me and know why I hadn't been showing the house. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so like you real quickly know when you got 200 listings, like that you better have a good communication process that you've set expectations around.
So here's what
Sorry.
No, you didn't. I got it. It was going around the room when you started. I was like, so that was perfect. But what you said was exactly what was going around the room. What I told her, because I was just speaking to her naturally, just like we're talking now, and I said, listen, the reason why you call them is guess who's always in power in any communication? The person who controls the questions. So if you wait for them to call you, what do you think they're calling you with? What do you think they're calling you with?
Right.
Questions. And they're questions you don't know.
Right.
But if you go ahead and call them, then they're probably thinking, well, no, I don't really have any questions. I wasn't even thinking you were going to call me right this second.
Right.
Thanks for calling. And then they don't have this anxiety. Right? And so I said, the best thing you can do with that house is beef up your communication now and give them market information now so that when it does come time for them to make the decision, whatever that decision is that needs to be, they're not going to be blaming you.
Right.
They're going to be understanding the market,
right, because
you've been communicating it, and then they're going to be also in between now and then they're going to be open to it. And so we were talking through that, but I was trying to process when you asked me what I was thinking, how all of that has to do with the customer experience from the time how they're communicated from the minute that they become part of your, from when they first learn about your organization, going back to your tractor experience,
right,
when you bought your Como, right,
to
the experience of the guys that came in and put in your windows,
right. That's good. So you rattled my chain a little bit. So let's first talk, man. There's a lot of angles here that we could go down. I do want to let everybody know that's listening that we are going to get into how we're generating. If you're generating leads that are shit leads, and they're home search, and they're Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and the FUs that you get when you generate home search, and you want to know what we're doing to generate over 20,000, between 20 and 30,000, depending on what month it is, in predisposed buyers that would run red lights or lay out in front of traffic to make sure that a family member did business with us as opposed to somebody else. We're going to talk about what that is, and we'll share that with you here towards after we get through this, because you've rattled the chain. We're into some tactics that I think are valuable that we didn't honestly just hadn't had a chance to share in a long time.
Yeah.
So it is a reminder. It is the customer experience, but it's also in alignment with what I feel like is the most important positioning that you can have, which is a differentiated value proposition. So in the training that we provide an agent, the systems that the standardized the business practices that we suggest that, and when an agent goes on appointment, you do this, say this, and you follow this process, right? So like for me, my experience was on the listings, and I learned this because just like I was saying, 200 listings are on the board, nothing's selling. I'm still going on listing appointments. The market's starting to go downhill fast. They start calling me. One of the phone calls I used to get all the time was, how come you haven't showed my house? How come RE/MAX has showed my house more than you have? I used to get that phone call. I don't have an answer for that. You know what? There ain't an answer for that when you got 200 fucking listings. You ain't got an answer for that. So I can't answer that one. I don't know what my agents are showing. I can't tell you why it hadn't been shown. All I know is RE/MAX has 5 times as many agents as we do. So what do? We set an expectation on the front end that when we start marketing, when we market a home, we look at all the agents in town, even all the ones at RE/MAX, and we allocate a portion of the budget to market to those agents, and we send them an email, let them know your home's on the market, new listing. So as opposed to getting those phone calls over and over, because I got them all like bombarding when the market shifted, I started getting more of them. It was more frequent. I was like, that's a problem. There's an expectation that's not being set here. So then we spun it into a positive. We spun it into we're going to allocate some of the marketing budget towards the largest portion of potential showings that you could have, which is 71% of the time a showing is the sale comes from another agent outside of our brokerage. So instead of just hoping that might happen, we're going to be proactive about it and market to the largest pool of buyers that we have no access to, which is agents that have buyers that they're already working with. So like those are all fundamental like best practices when it comes to positioning and actually adding value, actually allocating some of your marketing towards getting that home in front of agents, and making sure that you are putting their home in the most possible places to get the most showings. But those were just challenges that most agents have never experienced. How do you solve that, right?
Right.
But when you have a value proposition that is, we have a proven repeatable system backed by market research to sell your home for up to 18% more than the methods of traditional real estate agents. Would you like for me to show you how we do that? Yes, is the answer to that. When you come in and you've been positioned as an expert before you ever even get there because you're a certified home selling advisor, and the tools for pre-positioning you as that expert so you don't have to go in and sell. You're there to listen and advise your client as an expert, as an advisor, as the trusted authority on real estate. And when you know the market data, like this first example you gave, where you know that it's not in your client's best interest over a couple grand when you look at just the interest minus the tax savings on the next 2 months' payments makes up the difference. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In how much they actually walk away with. You owe it to them to look them eyeball to eyeball and say, let me tell you why you need to just do this deal. And that's what they want, that's what they need, and that's the hard questions, and that's what a certified negotiation expert, which is why that's differentiation. That's why we do the things we do the way we do it, the way we do it.
Right.
Because that is what they need. They need to be led. They want to be told what to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
I look at it it's like Riggs. Riggs is like, he wants his ass whipped. Like, he's like, show me a boundary. Just show me a boundary. I think he likes it. I think he actually likes the attention of getting in trouble. You know what I'm saying? As a kid, he's looking for those boundaries. Like, home sellers just want to be told, tell them what to do. This is why this is a bad decision for you. Let me, when I tell me again why you were moving, okay, and why is that important to you? Okay, remember when you said this and you said this and you said this? So I'm trying to help you accomplish that. Just know that my advice is coming from a place of, I'm trying to help you accomplish the goal you told me is important to you. Are we good? Okay, this is why now they're listening. They're listening to you. You know what I'm saying? They actually hear you. Man, I'm so lucky. That's when they take a picture of you and say you're the shit and put it on Facebook like they did Tatum.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, either you're an expert advisor or you're an AFA. You're just another agent out there trying to make another commission work. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference in you genuinely caring about the client, genuinely being an expert advisor, not giving a shit about the commission, but just telling them what they need to hear because that's what they need to hear. And that's what's wrong with the industry today. You know what I'm saying? Like, There's too many agents out there that just don't get it. They're in it for the commission,
Right.
And I just believe that it's our job to put those assholes out of business. I'm
Right.
just saying. Cue up the AC/DC. Anyways,
So I do have a question for you. You made me think this when you were talking. So in that process with the consumer, how do you transfer? Because what you basically were saying is, on the front end, you can remove expectations and create agreements.
Right.
With the customer.
right.
And that's
Let's talk. Can we talk about? I texted my wife that phrase this
all
morning.
right. That's what I was thinking. I was gonna.
It's the only
It's communication.
right, but I think I want to give the gift. I want to give the gift of just understanding this principle in life. Period.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like you told me a long time ago, this is a success principle. Pay attention here. This is a life changer. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like complete life changer when you start operating under this, because you can't get around. You can't get around it. You know what I'm saying? It's an unbeatable strategy.
Right.
So,
Right.
So you gave me the nugget originally. I want to say either a version of it from Warren Buffett, what he said about his wife, right?
Right.
Was like, only how was it phrased? Whenever you remember, I can't remember.
Yeah. I told
Very similar.
I told Stacy's cousin on the drive home from the lake. I said it's. He said basically his wife had released him of all expectations.
Right.
And so
How did you stay married for so long? And,
Yeah.
and as busy as he of a guy as he was. And
she released him of all expectations.
Right.
And basically that meant, and it's prevalent in the world.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that if you don't expect something, then the only byproduct of that is that I know where you're going
Right.
to go with it, but it's the vice versa. Is that you basically you cannot have an expectation if you have an agreement.
Right. You can never get your hopes destroyed or your feelings hurt. Mismanage your own expectations if you follow the rule of we only act upon agreements, not expectations.
Right.
Period. So if you only act on agreements, not expectations, I'm telling you, if you apply this to the last 3 arguments you've had and the next 3, you will see that that would have been an unbeatable strategy. That's a way for us to agree. Like for me, I had multiple situations. I can give you my 18-year-old son and his mom in the situation that they had. He had an expectation because he was 18 that he could come in anytime, day or night, as he wished, because he's an adult now, of course, right? But he didn't have that agreement with his mama. So mama thought you need to be home by a certain time and you need to tell me who you're with and you need to do this and this and this. And she didn't have an agreement with him that that's how things were going to be.
Right.
So there was this friction all the time, and it leads to an argument or building up of all this, I'm being disrespected and this and that and the other, all because of an expectation that you didn't even communicate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was made up in your mind. You just thought it should be, so that's what it should be. And nobody agreed to that. Nobody said, let's have an agreement that this is what we're going to do. If we're going to do something, we're going to both agree to it, and that's what we're going to do. So it was real simple. Braden didn't have a problem. So like he was going to, he'd been bouncing around. He's going to college now, but he was going to come live with me for a little while for the summer. We sat down and we set an agreement. We discussed what was fair. It was agreed upon. There was no problem. He didn't disagree with anything. So, there was some questions that he had, some clarifying things or whatever, but we came to an agreement. There would not be a problem that we wouldn't go back to, what did we agree to? This is what we agreed to. And sure, there's going to be times that things change or the agreement might need to change, but there was an agreement. So now you either didn't follow what you said you would do. Now that's a problem, you know what I'm saying? Or you did what you agreed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not difficult, right? So like so many times in my life, I wish I had learned that a long time ago. But like it's the same thing with employees. It's the same thing with your team. What do you have? What's the agreement? What is the agreement you have with an employee? What is the agreement you have with your agent? What's the agreement? What did you agree to?
Right.
A lot of times we say, well, here's the policy. Here's
Right.
what it is. But do you guys have an agreement? Like, did you both talk about it and you both agreed? Yes, this is what I'm going to do. Yes, this is what you're going to do. And that's how you're moving forward. Like you will change, your entire life can change with just implementing that one thing. So I appreciate you sharing that with me so many years ago, because even since then I've heard it in so many different contexts, but like I apply it in as many and as many. And my wife this morning it was Saturday, right? So yesterday we talked about, we got the Exponential Growth Summit coming up, and we're gonna have breakfast and just put together some ideas for some special speakers on wealth building,
Right.
which I'm very excited about. If you're paying too much in taxes, you might want to show up this year. We got a little secret we might let out of the bag there, but unbelievable. But that's the I didn't have it in my calendar, which that's my go-to, right? I like and the go-to is it in my calendar, right? So
Right.
that wasn't in my calendar because we just talked about it yesterday. So it wasn't in my calendar, but she had an expectation for me to watch the kids, and she was gonna. I don't even know what it was for. I still don't even know what it was for. It was
I saw it.
I don't even
It
know.
showed up in your calendar while we were discussing it.
Really?
Yeah, it was something about eyelashes or something.
She's trying to get her eyelashes done.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Can you watch the kids?" I was like, "I can't. I'm going to breakfast with Michael in the morning, Saturday morning." And so she sent me a text message. What did she say? Like it was so funny.
It
But
wasn't
she
in your
knows.
calendar?
No, she didn't hit me with it wasn't in the calendar. She said, well, when am I ever supposed to talk to you because I've been gone? You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
So, which was a victim comment. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I said, well, we didn't have an agreement. So you can't just put shit in my calendar. My wife can't just put shit in my calendar and say, you got to go do that.
Right, right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
We have to have an agreement.
Right.
That's how the calendar works. So, like, the calendar works great unless you try to sneak some shit in there. So that's why you got to have the eyeball thing. So anyways, it's all good, but it's just like, well, I'm glad to help. I'm glad to adjust, do whatever, however I can help or whatever. But like, we didn't have an agreement, so she can't be mad. Her feelings aren't hurt. She just wish she would have had an agreement with me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like that's a different kind of pissed off wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I wish I'd have brought it up and said something because if she had, I would have said, hey, yeah, well, I can't do breakfast, so we can do lunch or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's easy, but that's just it's just a principle. I hope everybody gets that because my wife's pissed off right now, but it ain't at me.
And so here, dude, you've literally in that story, like what came to my mind was, I don't know how this came to my mind, but for some reason, I don't even know how you made me think of this, but it's this, like, I know what it was. It was because as you were talking earlier, you said it was about also employees, and I was thinking as you were talking, we do have a standard that is communicated, no expectation, but an agreement with the level of training that they're going to have. We have an agreement that they're all going to get a certification, and what that made me think of was because we have that agreement that they're going to be a certified negotiation expert. There's different agreements, but as that affects the consumer experience. The specific thing is we have standards at our brokerage, and that made me think what we're really saying is that at the same brokerage there could be a different standard of training. In most brokerages, there's no standardized level of like that's what I think is different is that so I was reading a amazing podcast on. There's this label company that just recently sold for $12 million to Avery Labels. And it was talking about 4 partners that were all related, which was coincidental. And it was how they got their valuation, how quickly they built the company, and how they sold it. And at the end of the day, they said, they had this proprietary machine that allowed them to build these name tags, which my wife owns. I didn't even know, but it's how you label stuff on kid stuff.
Right.
And they talked about how there wasn't a market for it, and they saw like stickers and Scotch tape on kids' backpacks and stuff, and they were like, man, there's got to be a better way. But the cool thing is that when other parents saw it, like at daycare, they saw the kid's sippy cup named with this certain thing. They were like, oh, we want that.
Right.
So it had a lot of legs and a lot of, but they had to use a printing machine that was proprietary because it wasn't built to print this way, and there has to be like this durability and all this stuff. So they're interviewing this lady, and they said, so what gave you your valuation in her company? And it had nothing to do with any of that. The valuation was based upon the brand, and she was saying that their brand was so trusted in the marketplace that why the Avery purchased them and purchased them so quickly is because their brand was taking off as a place, and they had a durable, good product. Other people had tried to come, but this technology that the people that they even when they went to go buy these machines that weren't made to print this, the guys would tell other printers, man, yeah, we got these 4 crazy ladies, they're printing. They'd be like, stop telling people. They had to like put an agreement in place because that was like the deal that was making their stuff durable, but over time was part of what made the parents, like their brand. And so at the end of the day, all of this, because when you said the wealth thing, is like you have to have an idea of what your brand, I mean, if you're thinking short term, the customer experience doesn't matter. You're just trying to get a transaction. But when you're thinking about what the consumer's experience is going to be, that's how they're going to tell their other friend. Their other friend's going to know a realtor. But what they're going to tell them is about the consumer experience. It's like with Uber.
What are they going to tell them? What are they going to tell them about?
They're going to tell, I mean, what can they tell them? I know, hey, I know
they're really not. They're really nice.
Yeah.
Right? They do a really good job.
Exactly.
She's a sweetheart. Those
my friend for a long time.
Right. They helped me sell 2 houses.
Right.
Like, so then how do you win? So everybody knows somebody in real estate. In Texas, every other person is a real estate agent.
It's the handles to the luggage.
It's the handles to the luggage. So, or what are we talking about? What are the handles to the luggage?
That's what I want. This is where I think we're getting for the people who
meat and potatoes.
The meat and potatoes is that. So it goes all the way down to the agreement. So if you want to sell your home, you said for up to 18% or more, or up to 18% more money.
Right.
Then how are you going to do that? So if you communicate to me and we have an agreement on the things that are going to happen and you made the process visible, most of the people, dude, like really that we beat some pretty big agents here in Atlanta on appointments and they're just cutting corners.
Right.
They don't even have a unified presentation by all the same
much
agents.
less a process that they
or
follow.
a system or a process. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
And so there isn't anything
a standardized best practice.
Exactly. And so since that's not conveyed, then the consumer, some have a good experience, some have a bad experience. They can't really tell you what the experience was, is what they articulate. But so that's what I was saying when I said I was trying to think about the whole life cycle.
Right.
Is it's the consumer experience starts, buying and selling a home is a process. And you are in control. You are the host. You are their tour guide of the process.
Right.
And if you go, I mean, it's almost like when you said agreements. I mean, you don't go to a honeymoon at Disney World because that's not what you're looking for.
Right.
You know what you're looking for, right? And so, like, the consumer has something that they're looking for, and when they hire you, and they agree to hire you under what you've conveyed you're going to do for them, then you deliver on that. That's when the consumer has a good experience because now if you over deliver, because expectations can't be exceeded if they're not agreed upon.
Right.
So once we agree on here's what our agreement is, here's what you should expect.
Right.
Is this is what we're going to do. Then when you exceed their expectations, that's when you provided wow service.
Right.
And so I think at the core of what we've done, and what we do is that standardized process, which is the foundation to be able to build a great customer experience.
And I would love to say that there was this genius in place of thinking about this being about the process. To be perfectly honest, the reason that we built the process and we built it around process was because it wasn't me anymore. I wasn't there anymore. And Stace was the listing agent going on those appointments. And so it didn't need to be about me anymore. It couldn't be about 10 slides about me and how many homes I've sold and look at all my awards and look at I could win without any of that stuff. But it was helpful for Stace, but it wasn't the reason someone does business with you. It's not the reason someone refers you.
Which is why that agent told me, oh, I didn't do any of those. Those were all because... And they always say, oh, we're worth. I mean, they think, you know what I mean? Right. They know what they're going to do. Right. And even the agent, when it's not them, is confident in the process.
Right.
Because they can show, hey, look at this process. The process for this one sold this one for 16% more.
Right.
That builds the confidence and it gives their ability to articulate and, demonstrate the value.
Absolutely. Being able to articulate the value, demonstrate the value, leverage the value,
measure
the value, like, and all of that are pieces of the puzzle to that what you call the handles of the luggage. I mean, if you've ever gone to the airport and you try to drag your luggage around without using the handles, you would know what we're talking about. Like, if you don't give the consumer a clear and compelling, this is what they did, this is why they're different, this was what I experienced. And this is also the reason why the guaranteed sale.
I knew you were going to go there. That's where I was going. I swear, if you didn't say that, that's exactly where I was going.
Man, so all right, well,
And explain that. Unpack that.
I will. So let's unpack why the guaranteed sale is
because no one gets their house bought.
Right. So the reason that you'll never build a brand around guaranteed sale, don't get me wrong, I've ran guaranteed sale billboards. I'm not saying that from a standpoint of identifying a home seller who wants to sell, who's motivated to sell, that the guaranteed sale doesn't generate a seller that wants to sell now. The problem is, if you're building a brand, specifically a consumer-facing brand, specifically $1 billion brand, if you want to build $1 billion brand...
Because in that scenario, they're really getting the celebrity endorsement of them.
Right.
And that's just the call to action.
Right, that's the call to action, right. But they don't leave that experience going...
$2 million buyer's not calling that a call to action.
True. I called Jay Kinder. He said he would guarantee to sell my house or he'd buy it, and sure as shit, he sold it or he was going to buy it. No, that doesn't happen. Like they go through the process. Sometimes it gets brought up, sometimes it doesn't. Most often they don't take the guarantee because the offer that you make would not be something that's aligned necessarily to what's in their best interest in a lot of cases. And nor do you want that to be the case, right? You just want to have an option. So what I do believe the guaranteed sale does is it gives the seller an out. It gives them an option. I've had people take my offer right out of the gate without listing it, and I'll tell you what, it was an unexpected. I still own that house, and I didn't ever expect it, nor did I want to own that house. It's been like one damn house that I wish I could never have fucking bought, but it gets destroyed every time somebody moves in. They destroy it, but. They had a situation, and the husband was dying. They wanted to move to Florida. They wanted to spend their last Thanksgiving and Christmas together before he died, and they took that offer. I would have never been able to help that family had I not ran that guaranteed sale ad. So I'm not saying that the guaranteed sale is bad. I'm saying it's an ineffective strategy if you want to give someone.
It's only a certain subset.
If you want to make a promise and you want to deliver on the promise, and people walk away going, "You said you were going to do this. You did this." And this was my experience. Exactly what you said you were going to do is what you did. That is what's missing from the real estate industry. That is why the guaranteed sale is not the best brand for you to try to build around.
But it's a good marketing.
But it's a good marketing call to action.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully I may or may not have made that clear enough for people to understand.
You did.
But it's not. They don't walk away from that experience going around telling people
you didn't deliver the promise.
Here's the brand. Sale is legit. Buy it. He's going to buy the house.
How do you measure that brand promise?
Right.
What's the key metric?
Right.
How many did you buy?
Right. How many did you buy? And even if you bought some, even if you bought a few, the reality is that it wasn't what it appeared to be.
No.
Because you don't say I'm going to buy it at X price percentage of value. There's just a little bit of incongruency in the message to the experience. Even if you were to buy it, even if you were to make an offer. So it isn't going to carry on. So let me give you the example that
it's like the company. It's not a sellable. You're not. You could still. It could help you build a customer base that then you do a great job for.
Right.
And then that's building your brand.
Right. But I don't disagree with that as a strategy.
But people ain't going around town saying, "Oh, you got this guy over here has a. Have you tried Uber?
Right.
Oh, dude, you need to download Uber.
Right. You don't. Yeah, exactly. You don't every once in a while have somebody show up in a white car that dressed like shit, smells like shit, and not offering you a bottle of water in Uber. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen one time, not at all.
Right.
It always is a black car, unless it's Uber Select now or whatever.
Right.
So like they manage the experience similar to.
They have an agreement.
They have an agreement. They have a clear.
You don't want a black car? Let's agree upon that.
Right. Exactly. So there's no mismanaged expectation, and that is the experience. So there's a couple other examples that I like. I like the Mr. Clean car wash, right? So how do you differentiate in the car wash industry, right? So if you're in the car wash industry, and I don't know where Mr. Cleans are, but it is a pretty damn good car wash. I have to admit, like I'm always very happy when I go through that car wash. But it was right next to the Keller Williams when you used to be at Keller Williams, right next door. They were building it, and it hadn't been built yet. There's a big giant Mr. Clean, celebrity endorsed, which is brand, which, by the way, that whole thing was just genius. But everybody knows who Mr. Clean is. Why wouldn't you trust him to have your car, clean your car? And he's not a real person. He's just a brand. So Mr. Clean Car Wash, and so I go over there, and they've got this thing you pull up to, and there's a person there all day, every day. There's a person standing out there with a clipboard and a little presentation. And sure, they could let you just throw your money in the machine, but they don't do that. The reason they don't do that, which I found fascinating at the time, is because they want to communicate to you a few things, points of differentiation about their Mr. Clean Car Wash. So, so I'm going through. It's brand spanking new. I mean, it literally opened the same day, and I'm in the Escalade. The black Escalade is always dirty, anyways. And I said, they're like, well, I want a car wash or whatever. And he's like, well, they gave me this menu of choices. Like, you can get this one, or this one, right? Which is a certain selection of services, here's what it would cost for you to do whichever one of those. This one's the best deal. This is what most people do. I said, okay. And he said, sir, have you ever been to a Mr. Clean Car Wash before? I said, nope. You guys just opened. And I'm like, this is your first day, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean Car Washes. We only use kinds of detergent. You ever been to a car wash where the minute you drive out of the stall, it's spotty and it looks like it's got a film on the vehicle? And I said, yeah. I said, I got a black vehicle. It happens literally every place that I go. So he said, well, that won't happen here because we use the kind of detergent we use is Then what we do with the filter, and it's also the filtration of the water and so he starts differentiating. He gave me like probably 6 handles to the luggage.
The undercarriage salt.
The undercarriage salt water, salt protection.
For up north where they have snow and salt.
Right. So even if it didn't matter, he was giving them to me. So he gave me all these points of differentiation about why I should come to Mr. Clean Car Wash as opposed to going anywhere else.
Which there's one.
There's car washes on every damn corner here.
Yeah.
So when I and the funny thing was as you become interested in consumer-facing brand and paying attention to differentiation and what consumers' behaviors are and what other businesses do, like we're obsessed with it. If you're obsessed with it like we are, you'll love our podcast, obviously. But that situation, as I went through exactly everything that happened, I came out, everything he said was going to happen is what happened. And then he offered a guarantee. If it rains within 36 hours, come back and we wash it for free. It was a cherry on top. I was like, I did not know that. I didn't come here for that. Wasn't advertised. It was a value add differentiator on top of everything. So what I did was I don't know if you remember. I walked back in when I walked in the office. I don't remember exactly what I said.
You said almost like the presentation.
Right. I tried to get, and then this was looking back when we talk about this. Like it was looking back on this that I recognized what had happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know in the time.
No, you were just talking to me like, dude, you got to go to Mr. Clean's. And I was like, well, dang, you sound like you worked there.
Right. So the difference is like when Michael's driving down the road and you're thinking about pulling in to get to a car wash and you could go left or right, you might actually make a U-turn to go across the street to a Mr. Clean Car Wash.
Right.
Because I gave you the handles to the luggage.
Right.
I gave you the differentiation, the reason why it was different, the reason why it was better, and the cherry on top was the guarantee. And to back it all up, if it rains, which is out of anybody's control, they'll wash it for free.
Right.
So there's a good chance that every person that I talk to is going to end up taking up the Mr. Clean Car Wash and going there at least one time, right? And then having that experience and then sharing that experience. What happens to the brand?
Which is the whole point is then after you because no one has that standardized process.
Right.
So that's off the table.
Right.
But then once you have that, what happens when you actually get your car wash and it looks damn good?
Right. You're a raving fan.
Now you have that consumer experience.
Right.
Right?
Right. Your level of loyalist goes through the roof.
Right.
Like what you said was amazing. I get it, and it was exactly what you said it was, or it was better, in that case.
Right.
So let's relate that back to the real estate industry, to the importance of managing the consumer experience. Like you're just never going to scale a team when you don't have standardized best practices in your organization. You don't have clearly articulated process that you're making sure that the consumer has gone through the process and heard the presentation. You don't stop the presentation because they want to sign paperwork. We used to do that. I used to cut that corner, right? Like, oh yeah. Oh, okay. So you watched this video already, so I'm not going to give you the presentation. Bullshit. You got to set expectations. You got to clearly articulate this is the process that we're agreeing to. Set those expectations. We have agreements that this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to deliver on that, and this is how we're going to get that result. And if we don't, this is when we're going to get back together. And when we do, it's not going to be because of this process. It's going to be because the market's telling us that your home is overpriced. And then we're going to make a decision together based on what's going on in the marketplace, how we want to adjust if we need to adjust. But if you don't do all those things, if you don't have a process, number one, if you don't have a process that are training for your agents where you've at an expert level and certified that they're trained and tested them out, where like a university would, the Harvard University of real estate. If you don't have all of those pieces, then you don't have a valuable business. Let's just be real honest. You have a small business that's cranking out some income for you, but it can be better. It can be much better than that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
There's a lot of things. I did not know where this one was going to go for sure. But I think we touched on some really important things in terms of setting expectations versus agreements, having standardized processes that, and the training that goes behind the execution of those processes, and managing the customer experience to the point that you're actually calling them, like the Vivint story. I didn't share it on this episode, but I will. The Vivint Technologies. If you haven't had a Vivint, heard of Vivint, they're huge. They're a privately held billion-dollar company. And they consider themselves a technology company because of valuation purposes, most likely. Being valued as a technology company as opposed to an alarm company, because when you're publicly traded and you say you're a technology company, even when you're really an alarm company that uses technology just like every other one, but if you call yourself a technology company, guess what happens? Your multiple goes up through the roof, right? So they're a billion-dollar company. They drop kids off in Lawton, Oklahoma, which is a good place to drop kids off to sell alarms because Lawton is dangerous and people do need alarm systems.
Right.
They knock on my door. Kid comes in, gives me a presentation. I was actually I just wanted to see the presentation. I was like, oh, it was a Saturday morning. I was like, right on. Let's see what this kid can sell. So he goes through the presentation. I was literally pretty impressed with the equipment. Just at the time, the technology itself was very advanced for what I had seen in Lawton. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, the video like on your phone, everything. This was like 5 years ago. So I mean, it was pretty impressive. I was like, really? That's so they're gonna provide all this, give me all this stuff, da da da. I get on the phone.
So you're almost out of your contract.
Yeah, I am. I am. Yeah, they're 5-year agreements, which are at a multiple of what? It was stupid. I can't remember. 40, 30, 40?
Yeah, 48 times.
48 times. Man. We're going to have fun at EGS talking about that.
Yeah.
Multiples are an interesting thing, and the valuation of your company is an interesting thing. We take an interest in that sort of thing. So, where the hell was that ADHD guy?
No, you were saying that they...
Oh, at Vivint, yeah. So...
But you did the same thing.
What do you mean?
After they did everything that you did, you literally called me and I had Vivint like 2 weeks later.
I remember. They created a raving fan with process.
Right.
It wasn't the kid.
No.
It could have been anybody. But what I noticed this time, not only was I very impressed, and did I also promote them and got them another sale, which I don't think I do that often, but maybe I do. You know what I'm saying?
I think you do when you're impressed.
Right. You're right. And when I don't...
Tell them about a terrible custer experience. No, that's another podcast.
The
swimming pool.
I'll tell you the swimming pool that we just built. That's a whole separate podcast. If you want to know fucked up process, like these fools needed... I mean, they built some nice pools. My pool is badass.
Are you a happy customer?
No. No, I'm not a happy customer. They still ain't done. Like my house.
That's some real estate transactions.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. It's been since November.
How much of it goes back to the agreement?
All of it went back to the contract, and all of it went like. Here's the thing.
If the agreement would have been right,
if they would have followed, no, the agreement was right. They didn't follow the agreement.
If they would have,
there was this process.
Right.
They don't have a process. They don't have any process. They leave it up to, and then there's no clear.
There's no standardized process.
No standardized process. There's no clarity amongst roles and responsibilities and who owns what within the company. So everyone kind of pushes it off to the other person. Oh, that must be her. Oh, that must be him.
So you didn't have an agreement on how to handle.
Right. They just didn't have clear roles and responsibilities inside the organization as to who owned what. So whose responsibility was it to
fill the brochure box?
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's funny, but it is that. But to finish that Vivint story, like that's a whole nother story. Like I can tell you, I'll tell you this much. I could run a pool company. I know that. I mean, I say I could run one. I wouldn't want to because it would be. The workmanship was amazing. The pool's freaking it's incredible. The pool is amazing. The quality was great. The process and communication freaking horrible. It was the worst experience I've ever had. I don't bitch a lot, but I bitched a lot during that process. Like I had to vent to somebody. Like
it seemed like every other week you were having to meet someone.
And I mean, I had to write 10-page emails, because they didn't write shit down. They would have built a 4-foot pool instead of a 10-foot pool. Like if we hadn't stopped them when they were digging. Like, hey, whoa, what'd you say? Did you say a sport pool? We ain't building no sport pool. Don't you remember? I told y'all, like, we remember this no, you didn't write that shit down with the, you know what I'm saying? Record it or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, your phone's got a recorder in case you forget shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not hard. But anyways, so I'm hard on people. Like, so when I find something good, I guess I do share it. But, so Vivint, the thing that was interesting.
Your window company you shared.
Window company did a great job too. They didn't do a good job on the part of it, but the windows were amazing. I highly recommend putting Anderson windows in. They're freaking amazing. Beautiful too. The Vivint. I'm gonna finish that story.
All right, go ahead. I'll stop.
It's quick. So last thing on this story.
It's amazing you stuck with it.
I know. My ADHD's off a little today. I'm good. I'm good. So the kid calls in the contract after we're going through everything, and she asked me 2 questions. She's like, she wanted to talk to me. I was like, okay, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So she said, yeah. So Mr. Kinder, I just want to make sure you're there with so and so. I was like, yep. And I just want to make sure he had on his orange name tag when he came to your door. And I was like, yep, sure did. And she did, and she said, did he wear booties or take his shoes off when he came inside? And I was like, yeah, he took his shoes off. So I was like, weird questions, right? Like, interesting. But what they were doing, this was a part of their process where they were making sure that their kids that are on the ground in Lawton, Oklahoma that day were doing the 2 things they felt like that mattered most to managing that experience with the alarm. Whether you bought or didn't buy wasn't as important as did you take your damn shoes off when you went into a person's home, and did you wear your name tag so you didn't get shot? You know what I'm saying? Probably a safety reason for that, or call the police reason, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But for whatever purpose it was, they had 2 things they knew that were critically important, and they got that information at the time of the sale, and I'm sure they probably got it in any situation where they could. If there was a sale was made, they could get that information. If not, they may not could have done that. Right. But that was how they were trying to manage.
Were you buying an alarm when they knocked on your door?
Hell no.
They knocked on your door and sold you a 5-year contract.
Knocked on the door and sold.
That's amazing.
I'm an easy sell, I guess.
I guess so.
But I'm glad I did because
it was a great system.
It was a good system. We still have it at the house now, obviously, because they move with you.
Right.
Right. So when it comes down to managing the customer experience, and when it comes down to providing the value and providing added value in the process, what we've done as agents and been successful, and as we scale that with teams, I think a lot of times that's where things start to dissipate and the value isn't there, and that's when you start getting sucked into training. You get sucked into conversations with homeowners, pissed off, here and there, and it starts to become a challenge. So, anyways, that's the podcast for today. Is there anything you want to finish with?
Yeah, I think the nugget that I want to make sure people understand is that the process, the standardized process that delivers the agreement and the ability to exceed their expectations starts even when somebody asks you, why should I list my home with you? Right? Because the process that's standardized is tied back all the way to marketing.
Right.
It's tied back down to sales. It's tied back down. I mean, it's across the board. It is what you said, because when you said value, it's how you articulate, deliver, measure the value.
Right.
It's your value proposition and making sure that you're delivering upon that value. And I think that's what's a lot of people do a good job on just doing a good job. But
Right.
when you want to build something outside of yourself, something a little bit
Right.
bigger, you have to start looking at it a different way. And that's why I think what you were plugging at is I definitely am excited to help people understand
Right.
How to look at building the business maybe a more valuable way.
Right, and not just a more valuable way, but in a way that scales the experience that you're delivering. Of course, Peter Drucker says, there's only two things that matter in business: marketing and innovation. Well, innovation is just adding value. That's it. It's adding value. The story that gets told about the experience someone has when you tell someone you're going to do something and then you deliver on that in a way that's special and in a way that makes them feel great about it, and they go run and tell people is a way to scale your business if you understand that the customer experience is the most important thing in real estate. So I think that's just it's a fascinating fact that most people haven't probably really ever explored deeply. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I think we've just we've nailed it. And,
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing to nail, but I think that's, if you want to know why I believe we will be the most successful brand in real estate, and I think that I believe that the customer will be the person that decides that, not anybody else. The customer will be who decides that. We have the ability to really do something special because of that. So, at any rate, that's all I've got.
That's all I
I'm
got.
done for the day.
That'll work.
We'll either see you at the top
Or from the top.
or at the lake.
Or from the lake.